Thanks for stopping by. I'd like to preface this video by saying it is not a knitting tutorial, but it means to have something playing in the background while you work on your own project. If you're like me and really enjoy having something on while you work, sometimes the content you like is very visually engaging and you're several hours in and haven't gotten nearly as far along in your project as you would have liked to. So that's where I come in. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. Today is Friday for you. Oh gosh, I hope it's Happy Friday, honestly. I hope it's Happy Friday. Uh, for me as well. We never know. Every week is something else going on around here. But right now, this Sunday, I am feeling okay. Am I the greatest? No. Am I a little melancholy? But overall, I'm feeling better than I had been. And on Monday, I talked about that, and um, here we are. Today, we are working on the sock for my cousin's son. This is the first time you guys are seeing this one, actually. Monday and Wednesday's videos were my uncle's sock, which is just yonder. When I took inventory of it on Wednesday, I'm like, I don't have much left before I need to start decreasing for the toe. And I didn't bring my ruler up here to measure just when I'm at 8 inches. So I didn't want to risk knitting and talking with you guys because we all know what happens when Paws and Pearls knits and talks when she's close to having a moment where she needs to do something else. Things can go awry really quickly. So I was like, let me put that one away. But I did have this one upstairs here in a little hamper next to me. So I'm like, let me just grab this one out because I still have a long ways to go before I'm at 8 inches. And I also need to be at 8 inches on this one. And we are using, I've told you guys about this yarn before when I bought it at a local yarn shop. It's the Concept by Katya, Casual Socks and More. It is gauging a little bit heavier than a sock weight yarn. It's a little bit of a fluffier twist, a little bit of a bigger twist, just slightly than my sock weight yarn that I had been using. So I gauged this as, I'm still using size 2 circulars, size 2 US circulars, but I am counting this as a, like a little bit, it's still like fine yarn, but a little bit more than a sock and a little bit less than a DK, but just slightly. So it's a little bit between the two. So we're counting it for that guide using the Ann Budd Socks book that is now like my Bible for knitting socks. And I'm just going around. I have so much more to do before I'm at 8 inches, so I'm not going to be worried too much about this one during the video because I knit quickly enough, but not so fast with these itsy bitsy yarn and itsy bitsy needles that I would get to 8 inches before the end of the segment. So we're good. This is a good knit and chat portion of the sock. And this is the first of the sock pair for this young man. He is, my aunt confirmed that he's already at size 7 for women's, so I actually decided to knit his socks one size up because, you know, boys, when they're not even 13 yet, they get those growth spurts, and I just didn't. The thing about knitting for kids is, like, I don't want to knit and then have this go to waste. So even when I made his scarf last year, I knit it a little bit longer so he could continue to wear it into at least like his early teen years or so. It had some stretch to it, so if he even wanted it as like a shorter scarf when he's older, then he could still use it. Depending on how tall he gets. I don't know. His parents are kind of short, so I don't know if he's going to take after some long distant relative or what, because both sides of the family are pretty short. I mean, my maternal uncle, I have like one living maternal uncle who's pretty tall, but you know, his mom is short. My cousin is short. Her former partner, who is the father of this young man, isn't super tall either. He's not 6 feet tall, which is kind of like average guy height. So he's shorter than average guy. So I don't think this young man is going to be super, super tall, but he's got big old feet for his current state of humanoid growth. So I'm going to make his socks a little bigger. But yeah, I am just knitting around. So I've been catching you guys up through each video on like what's been going on with me since I hadn't been filming. And one other thing that I hadn't yet told you guys about was my trip to the vet with Kabu. If you guys are familiar with me and of my concerns about my dear sweet baby girl, Kabu is my kitty cat. She is one of 2 of the cats that are living that I own. And she is my eldest at the moment. She's 7 years old. She is this wonderful, sweet tabby girl. And she's so cute. And of course, all cats are absolutely so cute. But of course, she's like extra cute because she's my cat. But she's I talked about it before of her being a little neurotic and licking herself. And last year we took her to the vet because she's been grooming a lot, excessively grooming, and to the point where she's licking so much she's giving herself little owies because she's like basically raking her teeth across her tummy and in her inner legs and giving herself little owies. And after scaring myself to death several times because, and then I guess reviving myself too because I'm still here, worrying about her, thinking the worst because I already had a fatality where one of my eldest cat that I had owned passed away because he had aggressive cancer, and after ruling out so many other things before it was decided it was cancer, even though he was a senior cat and it was probably something we should have thought about earlier, even though I thought about it and I was told it wasn't. Long story, but I've just been worried about her, and I took her last year to the vet for her over grooming, and I was like, what the heck's going on with her? All her fur is missing. And the vet was like, it's behavioral. And I'm like, okay, this vet owns a cat. So I took her word for it, gave her a steroid shot, brought her home. She didn't stop licking, but the owies kind of went away. And then she still kept licking, but then other parts of her fur grew back. So I was like, oh, maybe it's not so bad. And then it kind of like got worse again. And then she's been licking, and now she's like got into her inner leg area. And now so her inner legs are kind of balding on her lower half. And her tail's still doing fine, which I'm surprised. I thought she would have chewed all the hair off of the tip of her tail again, but she hasn't yet. But she's been scratching a lot, like, on her ears. And I'm like, does she have an ear infection? Does she have mites? Even though I feel like I would be able to tell because she'd have that dirt. It looks like ground up coffee grounds in her ears. But her ears are actually, like, really clean. It's so funny because she has, like, no hair. Well, I mean, it was low hair there, but, like, not a lot of ear hair. And she has, like, no earwax. But Koji has super fluffy ears, and he has tons of earwax. I'm always cleaning out his ears. Thankfully, he kind of likes it because it's like a good scratch and stuff, and I can just like dig in there, and it feels good to him. He likes it, but you know you can't do it too much because then he starts like flicking his ears and stuff. But he gets all the earwax, and he has the most fuzziest ears, so it's kind of weird. But she's just been scratching her ears and rubbing on stuff, and so she's getting owies on her ears because she's rubbing on stuff so hard she's starting to make them a little red. And so I'm like, all right, well, we finally got an appointment. And the vet had moved to a location that's actually closer to where I live now, but because of COVID, I hadn't been in there. And they have this crazy process now where you call. You go in, you park, you call the office, and the person at the desk answers, and you tell them you're there, and they ask you, what kind of work are you there for, and, you bring in your poop sample, because it has to be a day or at least, at the latest, a 24-hour-old poop sample to take the lab. And they're like, do you want flea stuff? I'm like, nah, she's indoor. And they're like, do you want blood work? I'm like, yes, because she's thinking, because she's older, she should have it done. And she had some last year and it came back fine. And I'm like, well, I want to see if I could do like allergy tests or something and get an estimate for dental, because she's due for dental work. And I haven't had it done with this vet. So, they take her. So actually I sit in the car and they're like, okay, we're gonna come. They're like, well, what kind of car are you in? So I tell them, and then they're like, all right, we'll wait in the car, we'll come get you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go in to the vet, and actually the tech comes out to the car and just takes Kabu out, in the carrier, and she goes back in. And so my partner and I are sitting in the car, and the vet actually calls me on the phone and then explains like what she's seen, and I get to talk to her, and then she goes and does what she needs to do, and then they bring her back out, and then they're like, okay, here is Kabu, and I'm like, cool. And then they're like, we're gonna this is all the stuff we did, and then we're gonna call you for payment. I'm like, okay. So then they call me on the phone again, and I pay with my credit card over the phone. And I'm like, holy cow, this is so weird. But then, like, my partner, like, this is nice. This is nice. I'm like, it is, because we literally didn't have to step a foot in this facility. They did all of the things. We just sat in the car. And I'm like, I mean, I like our vet. I was concerned because of what I'd witnessed, but I was reassured again when I talked to her again. And she reiterated, she's like, this is behavioral. She's like, cats don't get allergies like dogs do. Like, she's been fine. It's not something that just pops out of nowhere. It's not a common thing like with dogs to have allergy like that. So she's like, this is behavioral. She's self-destructive, behavioral. We can give her a steroid shot again. We gave her one last year. I usually start with a low dose. I can up her up a little bit. And one of the possible side effects is diabetes. It's temporary. It occurs as the steroids are being administered. So if you stop the steroids, then the cats can revert back to having normal count and normal functions and everything. It's just, if some cats happen to have a reaction where it induces diabetes. So she's like, keep an eye on her, water intake, food intake, all that stuff that's common with cats and diabetic symptoms. And if she's exhibiting those signs, then we won't continue with the steroid shots. But you should get them at least maybe every year, every 8 months, depending on what she's looking like, what she's doing. And I'm like, okay. She's like, well, how did they do last time? And I'm like, well, she didn't stop licking herself, that's for sure, but her scabies and stuff did subside. Like, her tummy looked better. So she's like, okay, so it's not stopping it, but at least we can make sure that she's not, causing too much harm to her body. She can still lick, because that's what she's going to do, but at least she won't be so nasty looking. I'm like, alright. And I'm like, God, baby, what the heck? Like, we got her this new cat tree. She has all delicious food. She's playful. She's just herself. Like, there is literally nothing that has changed to what she does besides where we live. And I'm like, is there something here that's setting her off? What is going on that's making her start to think that she needs to look herself like that? She was totally fine up until we moved here. And I'm like, obviously we want to get the heck out of here because the dogs are annoying as heck. Being so close to work means that people are asking me to come in and do things when everybody else gets to stay at home, and I don't want to put myself any more at risk than I need to by being the one who's just able to pop over here at my job. But I want to say it might be the dogs, but they're not barking. I mean, they bark a lot, but thankfully the people who live next door have been spending time more away from the home, which means the dogs are with them, and that means they're not yapping all day long. So that helps a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just because she's getting older, and now she's like, yep, I feel like cleaning myself now. Um, oh, and then so she got her rabies shot too. Uh, the vet said even though she is a senior cat, that she doesn't recommend blood work every year until they're in their double digits. So she skipped blood work this year because she's like, last year her blood work came back totally fine, so I am not concerned. I don't think she needs it this year. But next year when she comes in, we'll want to do it. So like every other year until she's in her tens and teens. Um, but roided up. She's got to take those drugs. And I told my partner, I'm like, honestly, as much as I was worried about her, and as much as I still am, just because she is a senior cat now, I feel better being reinforced by the vet that, you know, she doesn't think we need to test anything else. Like, she's like, it's behavioral. Her being a cat owner herself, I do trust her a little bit more because she is familiar with the cats. Being a vet and being an owner of the same animal that I am entrusting her with. Um, but I'm like, if it was allergies, we would either have to give her a pill, um, regular injections. I've been filming on my phone and I've run out of space on my phone for filming, so my video cut out and I was not even quite halfway through yet, but I did want to say thank you so much. I was just talking about some weird stuff, don't know where it cut off, but I will get cut off again. So I'll say thank you for watching this Friday video. Man, I wish I could have kept talking, but I will see you next week. Take care, stay safe, and I'm so glad to be back to filming. So have a good weekend, guys. Bye.